Does anyone have any thoughts on how Brexit is going to affect agencies' ability to recruit and clients' ability to employ the right workforce?
Yeah, I can take that.
Sure.
Well, you know, obviously, as everyone will have realised, freedom of movement has now ended since Britain's exit from the EU. What that means is, you know, the UK's ability to utilise EU migrants is now much more limited than it was previously. So, in terms of EU nationals that are already here, well, they will obviously be allowed to stay, providing they were here before the 31st of December. But they do need to register with the EU settlement scheme, and they must do that before the 30th of June this year, 2021. So they need to register with that, and they will get either a settled status or a pre-settled status. If they have a pre-settled status, then as soon as they are eligible, they then need to apply for settled status. And whether you're pre-settled or settled depends on the amount of time that you've already been in the UK before Brexit took effect. So you will get settled status if you've been here for longer than 5 continuous years, and you'll get pre-settled status if it's less than that. So for those that are already here, that's really good news. It means that their right to continue here, you know, along exactly the same lines that they were here previously will continue. So that's, you know, that's good news. I think the difficulty then comes with, you know, what about EU migrants or EU nationals who are looking to come to the UK, you know, from now onwards? And then, you know, the difficulty is that they will have to apply via our new points-based immigration system, which, to be fair, has always applied for other countries that aren't the EU, but now, of course, apply to EU nationals as well. And that's not an easy process, and it's not a slow process, and it's not cheap either. You know, there are costs both for the employer and the potential employee as well. And, you know, employers have to go and get what's called a sponsorship license from the Home Office, which costs them money to do that. And then every time they want to employ an individual, they need to pay per sponsorship certificate that they issue to those potential employees, as well as other costs as well. So it becomes much slower and a little bit more, you know, a little bit more difficult. Now, in terms of recruitment agencies in particular, their job gets even harder because they are not entitled to apply for a sponsorship license. They are not able to sponsor, you know, non-UK nationals because for temporary work. You know, so these individuals will need to have a confirmed permanent job offer by an end client, and agencies then are a little bit limited as to how they can then supply those individuals. So that's causing, you know, a few issues. There are some short-term visas that could be utilised in certain sectors, things like the seasonal worker for what they call edible horticulture, so sort of, you know, farming food, basically. You know, individuals can come over for a maximum of 6 months to support, but again, they need to have a certificate of sponsorship. So it's likely that it's, you know, the end client is the one that's going to have to organise and manage all of that, which means that, you know, do agencies then become a little less relevant in the process? You know, it's perfectly possible they can source individuals, but not get, you know, and then just charge the client a permanent fee, but temp does become, you know, exponentially harder. Interestingly, there is no self-employed route available now via the points-based immigration system. So you have to have a confirmed job offer from a client, and that in itself is difficult as well. So, you know, there are some difficulties, but, you know, we have the advantage that a lot of people now are working remotely, and that does seem set to continue. And I know we're going to move on to, you know, COVID and the ramifications of that in a little bit, but I think, you know, there is the distinct possibility that agencies can supply workers on a temporary basis for people who are based outside the UK, for clients inside the UK, if the services can be delivered remotely. So that is, you know, a plus side. And also, of course, you know, UK agencies can facilitate international placements. So they can work with EU-based clients for either UK or EU-based, temporary workers and supply those. But obviously they need to be mindful of local laws within each EU member state, because some member states require recruitment agencies to be registered in country and have licenses, etc., to provide any kind of recruitment services, even if they're doing it, internationally. Switzerland is a really good example of that. So they'll need to research the local laws and things, but I think, looking outside the UK, supporting non-UK clients is going to be helpful. And as I said, fully remote positions, I think, will also continue. But realistically, if individuals are looking, clients are looking for work from EU nationals going forward, they'll need to be fully remote if they want it to be a temporary placement.
It sounds, I mean, if we can take anything from the burdens that IR35 has brought in and the kind of risk that, or the adverse risk that the end clients have taken, if you're adding kind of administrative burden, as you say, on top of that to that hiring process, as you rightly say, I think it makes more sense to be remote, to remain remote. And perhaps that will expedite a change in the kind of workplace a little bit more quickly. Who knows, maybe COVID has affected that, and maybe that's forced a change in thinking coupled with these changes to EU migrants. Maybe that is going to force a natural change, and maybe there will be a lot more remote workers. That's interesting.
I mean, I'm